Welcome, everybody, to our Lift Up live event. Rosie Grant and I are back again for our 10th Lift Up live broadcast. And today we're going to be talking about the bench to boardroom and the science behind becoming a CSO, which we are super, super excited about, aren't we, Rosie?
Yes, very excited.
Yeah, we've got two fabulous key speakers, both CSOs, who have developed phenomenal careers that we can't wait to bring into this live broadcast with you today. But before doing so, for those of you that are completely new to joining this event and the Lift Up community group, our mission statement here within Lift Up is all about connecting, championing, and inspiring women in the industry, all the way from academia up to C-suite. We launched this back in the summer of last year, so around August time. We went live with our first broadcast in September, and we've had around, I think, 24,000 global views now. So thank you so much. And actually, we have had a phenomenal amount of male allies that have really supported this community group. So thank you so much for doing that. So, for those of you that have joined these events before, you may have noticed I'm losing my voice a little bit, which is very strange because I did a LinkedIn post this morning for those of you that saw it, and my voice was absolutely fine. And today it's wavering. So, I'm hoping that throughout the next 45 minutes of being live in this broadcast, it's going to hold up. But I've got my fabulous co host here, Rosie, who I'm sure will help me out. But
Yeah,
for
for
those of
sure.
you, thank you. But a quick introduction to me before I pass through to Rosie. So I'm Louise Williams. I'm the Global Operations Director here at Fraser Duff International, the Life Sciences Executive Search Talent Consultancy. I've been in the business now for around 2 years, staffing for around 18 years now, and fell in, or should I say, headhunted into life sciences around 9 to 10 years ago now, scarily, and yeah, it's a fabulous career. I love it, and I've got two young children. I've got a 3-year-old son, and I've also got a 7-year-old daughter that both keep me very, very busy. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm going to pass this over to Rosie for you to do your intro.
Yeah, thanks, Louise. And I hopefully we can get through it without you losing your voice. No, from my side, again, for those of us who've not joined us before, been at Fraser Dove for 3 years. And prior to that was actually in industry for a medical devices company, whereby I had a great experience with some amazing female mentors, coaches, and managers. And want to hopefully create a world where that is available to everyone as they go up through their careers. Um, and now based in our London office with Fraser Dove and enjoying it. But today it's really great to have you here. I can see some of you have already joined us. It looks like we've got Lynn. Lynn, thanks for joining us again. Last time Lynn joined us, she
Yes.
was actually on the panel. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting discussion today. I think pivotal for those that are looking to make that next step. Now, if you are wanting to get engaged with us today, please comment, say hello, tell us where you're coming from, and be sure to let us know where you are in your career journey. This is all about connecting. We're not only we're going to be championing Jen and Claire, the women that are going to be on our panel, but we also want to connect all of you and help you build your network as we go.
100% Rosie, and it's absolutely great to see people dialing in already. And actually, we had some early visitors, which was fabulous. We had Lynn, obviously, and then I think this is Kate Littlebet, who was also on our last live broadcast with Lynn. I think she's just got her privacy settings set to LinkedIn user at the moment. But thanks so much, Kate, for dialing in. Rosie, who else have we got? I think we've got
Yeah, we've
quite a
got,
few coming through.
yeah. Hello, everyone from Bulgamula. We've got a few coming in. I can't see where you're coming from. Let me know where you're coming from around the world, and then we can know we've got the global reach again. We've got Kristen Murray saying hi. We've also got Sean, who's back at the Farnham HQ, saying hello. So that's the UK at least. But yes, if you want to join, get involved. Here we go. We've got Monica from New York. Hi, Monica. Thanks for joining. Thanks for letting us know you're here. And we've got a few actually coming from Northern Ireland as
Yeah.
well. Hi,
I think there's been a
Shivani.
backlog and it's suddenly
I know
pushed
it's
through.
suddenly flying through now, but I guess while everyone's joining, maybe it'd be great
Wise.
to possibly introduce some of our speakers.
100%, Rosie. Yeah, couldn't agree more. So, without further ado, I'd love to bring in Jennifer Chadwick. Hello, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Louise. Hi, Rosey.
If
Thanks
you could
so
do,
much for inviting me to be part of this conversation. I love the way you
oh,
started this with, we actually get to know a few people who are on the call as opposed to just a screen in front of us.
absolutely. So, we want to make this as interactive as possible. So, we've got so many people as well. Keep commenting. It's fabulous to see. We'll share some of these comments later. But Jennifer, for the audience, would you love to do an introduction into yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So it's been a long journey. I think, like most people at my stage of career, you start out with sort of aspirations and a standard track, as I did, um, coming into science, into graduate school, working towards actually getting a technical degree and experience in that. So I did my work at Purdue University in the chemistry department with a mix of biochemistry and analytical chemistry. I was fortunate enough to move across the campus to the structural biology group, which was world renowned, and do a postdoc there with that group, and had a lot of opportunities ahead of me. So hopefully a lot of the details will come out as we talk today, but tough choices, right? Lots of opportunity. And I took the opportunity to move to the University of Kansas as an academic. It was a wonderful mix of sort of foundational science and application into the industry. And for me, that was a great choice in the beginning of I think the career path that I've taken. So being in that environment was very entrepreneurial, as well as really solidly rooted in science. I had a lot of relationships with the industry, and other researchers, highly collaborative approaches. So I was able to learn not just the technical science, but actually what's driving the industry and the choices. And I enjoyed that so much. We had a discovery that I helped co-found a company called Ecogen. As many of them do, it did not cross the finish line in a way that you would like, but it gave me a basis for really understanding what I needed to learn and know, and grow into. And I chose to exit the academic life as a full professor and move to what then was a company called Bioanalytics, a very small, young spin out of the Barnett Institute at Northeastern University, and worked with a team of great people. And we've been through a couple of M&A activities now leading into the company where I'm the CSO, called ProtaGene. I'll leave all the peripherals until later, so
Yeah.
it'll take up too much time. But
No, that's absolutely as a lovely story, and I think I can't wait to delve in deeper. We've got some fabulous questions lined up, and I'm sure as we move throughout this session, the audience, you've got the opportunity to ask some questions later on to both Jennifer and Claire. So I'm going to bring Claire into the broadcast now. Claire, it's fabulous to have you with us here today too. Would you love to do an introduction to the audience?
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here as well. My scientific curiosity started in Trinidad, actually. Pre-degree, I worked at the Caribbean Epidemiology Center, actually testing stool samples and looking for platyhelminth eggs, and the different stages of maturity and their life cycle. Following that, I did my degree in analytical chemistry at the University of the West Indies, and left Trinidad and came to England, where I entered the pharmaceutical industry. I've been in the pharmaceutical industry now for 35 years, and I actually split my career into two halves. The first half was in innovative pharma, Glaxo and Sanofi, and the second half has been in generic, starting at Teva, and now I'm the chief scientific officer at Sandoz. My passion for science really started with me having a childhood disease. I was asthmatic as a child, and I remember holding my first inhaler, and the benefit I got and the change in my quality of life and the ability to participate and play with my siblings is really what gave me the passion for making sure that the quality of life, the health that I was able to access, I wanted to be able to provide that for others as well. So my journey from really starting from the lab to the boardroom has been one of continuing to focus on science, really making medicines accessible, learning leadership, and really ensuring that that passion has been delivered all the way through. Part and parcel of that has been moving from Trinidad to the UK, and now I'm based in Switzerland. So it's been a journey on many different levels, scientifically, physically in terms of location. Um, and that really is an introduction to me, Claire
Yeah.
Dabra.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you. Truly inspiring as well, and really moving and humbling as well. And I'm sure you've had some hurdles and challenges as you've navigated that career. So it'd be lovely to explore some of those and the solutions that you created off the back of them as we go
Yeah.
throughout this broadcast.
And I was going to say, I think, Jen, where you've done some organizational growth that didn't go as planned, and you've done some that's really worked. I think it's going to be really interesting to explore that, and of course, Claire, to explore your time through some of the largest pharmaceutical organizations in the world, and also that change and probably personal development that was made throughout both your careers. While we're here, there's been a lot more
I
conversation, a
know,
lot of
as well
people
as
joining. We've got Shivani from Northern Ireland. We've got Monica coming in from New York. Um, we, we're global right now. I think most continents are covered, which is really exciting.
yeah.
Greetings from Nigeria, from Maria, Claudia coming in from Portugal. So please keep engaging, keep joining. It's really nice to see some of you letting us know where you are in your career. So 25 years in. So it looks like this is going to be a really beneficial conversation for the audience, and what next steps they need to make. I'm just looking through here. We've got Monica coming from Poland, Melanie from Belgium. A terrific topic and panelists today. So I guess on that note, maybe we'll jump into our first question to really set the scene for the conversation today.
100%. Thanks, Rosie. And just before I go to the question, the one thing I'll just highlight to the audience is just that as we move throughout, we've got some great questions for both Jennifer and Claire. But if there's any burning questions that you would love to ask them, just pop them into the comments feed and pop a Q at the beginning, just so Rosie can really easily navigate that through the comments. So just plug them into the comments as soon as they come into your mind, and we'll try to get to them throughout this interactive session. So I think the first one, just briefly touching, I think this is an important one we ask all guests that join us, is why was Lift Up an important community group for you to join and be a part of? And Jennifer, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, sure. I really appreciate actually having been reached out to about this, because I wasn't aware of it. There's a lot of groups, and I think what you're doing is very effective conversation, and I appreciate that about it. One of the motivators was actually to be able to have a conversation with Claire, who's on another continent, about something that obviously is very personal and yet shareable to people to kind of take in and think about from their own perspective about how to grow. And I like supporting those conversations. I think individuals have to hear them and then be able to decide what it means for them in terms of decision making. And so I'm always happy to, share some stories and some perspectives that will help people to think about their own journey. So I like the conversation that Claire and I have gotten started already. So
Yeah, that's great. And it's not just about these broadcasts and you sharing experiences and advice to a degree, but it is about bringing in the community group together and connecting. Kate and Lynn, our last two live broadcasters, I think they spent, if I hope they don't mind me saying this, they spent about an hour and a half on the phone together one evening, just talking. They just really get on. And two of our previous broadcasters earlier in the year, they're actually 20 minutes down the road from each other in Chicago and didn't realize. So they swapped mobile numbers, and now they're connecting. So that gives us great pleasure. So thanks for that feedback as well, Jennifer. And how about you, Claire? I'll come to you with the same question.
It's really valuable having a community like this. For a major part of my career, and as you become more senior, it becomes quite lonely. You go into these conferences, and sometimes, in the early stages, you could count the number of women that were in the room. And I think having a community where you can see others who are aspiring and on a similar journey with you, that you can exchange stories with, that can be role models, that can inspire you, that can answer questions, I think is really a critical aspect. And I think it allows you to spend time on looking at you as a leader. And that really is the value of the community. And that's why I fully support, what Lift Up is doing.
Thank you, Claire. I think reflection's always a big key, no matter where you are in life, not just work, but on a personal level as well. So I love that. I'm a big advocate for reflection. So I'm going to kick off with a question here then. So, and we're going to talk earlier in the journey, career journey, and then maybe move on up and through. But what were the key challenges when moving from a bench role, you know, as a scientist or in academia, into industry? What was that transitioning like? And I'll come to you, Claire, first.
Yeah, I think my transition from bench to industry was also a transition from Trinidad to England.
Double.
My bench really started in a small lab, a Caribbean epidemiology center, which was maybe government regulated, but much more on a local context level. And moving into industry, Glaxo, as one of the leading innovative companies in the world, a very heavily regulated pharmaceutical industry. I think one of the key challenges really was getting your head around the requirements for GMP, the global manufacturing practices, good manufacturing practices that are required, and working in collaboration with a bigger team, and really learning a lot of the technologies and being able to define and understand the science, the medicines that we're developing. Uh, in parallel with that, really learning who you are as a scientist and understanding the expectations of industry. I think that was some of the key challenges really that I faced in making the transition from that initial bench purely into industry as an organization.
That's really interesting, and something I hadn't actually planned on asking, but it's just spun off of what you've just said there. But how do you feel that perhaps that is different from you transitioning, 30, 35 years ago to transitioning now? How you talked about technologies and processes and compliance with GMP. Do you feel like there is a significant difference now for those scientists transitioning into the industry, or do you think it's still very much the same?
I think it's different. What's really different, and something that I got involved with as I was working at Glaxo and have continued through my organizations, is that I think there's a lot more collaboration between academia and industry now.
Mhm.
And industry leaders are actually inputting into the science programs
Yeah,
in
true.
academia. So when graduates are coming into industry, there's a better
Yeah,
understanding of some of the
bridge.
requirements. And I think that's really been very helpful and has also contributed to seeing more females, not as much as we would like, coming into industry as well, because you have that stronger industry academic collaboration than existed. When I got into industry 35 years ago, that bridge wasn't as strong.
Yeah,
And
that's very
it's
insightful.
interesting because I think it also is it differs as to where you are in your career path. Like Claire, it seems you kind of made that move very early on, whereas I know Jen, I think you spent a little longer in the academia space. So I guess I'll throw the question at you: were the
Mm.
challenges slightly different when you'd obviously been so accustomed to working in academia?
Yeah, I think we really do come at this from very different paths, and yet everything you said, Claire, resonates with me. It's constant is change. I think that's an old adage, right? And you have to adapt, and you have to be aware that things are changing. One of the things that's important is anticipating that you're not in a static environment, and that you're going to be learning things that are already known, but there's also going to be a lot of things imposed on top of that are unknowns. And as you move into something, getting kind of up to speed on the knowns piece is essential, and you know that. But then the next layer is really having perspective, right? From having been in that and during that learning curve, realizing there are new things that you may have to adapt to, and those have to adjust. And one of the things I would say, in having spent my time right in pharmaceutical chemistry at the University of Kansas, it's a unique department that works heavily with industry partners, and like half of most of the faculty their work was with partners in the industry. So there was a constant conversation going on about the science, and yet that science is being driven by specific, needs, right, of the industry that are endpoint oriented. And so you're balancing how do you use and leverage science to accomplish what's absolutely needed and what's the path you need to go, which is regulated, right? And I think that's
Yes,
the
of
biggest
course.
difference for me is the science is a science, and you need the science in the development of products. But in an academic environment, you don't have to pay attention to regulatory pieces. When you move into the industry, you have to put yourself in that housing and that framework and adjust to that mindset that part of your job is to document and report and follow guidelines and things that aren't scientific principles. They're just guidelines. And so balancing that, I think, was one of the bigger challenges in figuring out how to do that efficiently and effectively. I see, kind of on one hand, people experience some disappointment with, oh, I'm not getting to do as much science. But you also don't get the benefit of getting your science translated to an endpoint where it's actually effective. So balancing those things is critical.
That hits the nail on the head. I think, I mean, the area that I work in is technical operations. So I speak to a lot of young scientists, not kind of going into that SME space. And I always get, oh, it's not as creative, or I don't have as much freedom. But you hit the nail on the head there, whereby moving it through that GMP regulation is what gives it access to the patients, right? So I think it's maybe that change in mindset
for that.
Yeah, and coming to terms with, like, this is going to really affect way more people moving that way, but both are obviously needed.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
well,
whether this has kind of just flowed in. Sorry, Rosie. Probably thinking the same thing. But
yeah.
if you had to go back and you're looking at those challenges and some of those things you had to navigate and being very aware of what those challenges were, stepping in, are there any potential solutions that you would put out to the audience, to anybody that is, considering that step in to transitioning into industry or is currently in it? Is there networks? Are there community groups? Is there internal individuals that you would suggest that they go and lean upon or ask advice from?
It's a good question. And I think a community like this, where you have a lot of leaders who have experience in STEM, because you have access to that community, I think would be very helpful. Really learning from others that have foreshadowed what you're going to be doing is really very helpful. I think the other area, certainly for me as an analytical chemist and as a graduate, I think you have the opportunity to join societies like the Royal Society of Chemistry and other societies like that, where they do actually provide, they have conferences, they provide a lot of materials that can also give you visibility of what's happening in industry. So I think there are solutions and there are tools that you can use that can help you to simplify, that transition. Certainly, those would be some of the easy things that come to mind.
And maybe also the mindset, right? Keeping an open mind about it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I was
We've
just going to
got.
add to what
Sorry, you
Claire
go.
said,
Yes.
because I think that those societies offer a lot of opportunity, not just to go to the conferences or, read the papers that are coming out of it, but to volunteer, to get actually involved with a group of peers and or people who are ahead of you that you can learn from. And that conversation is really facilitating because you don't know what you need to know, right? And it's not, it's the nuance of those things, right? So the technical piece is one piece, but getting into the conversation, actually being part of a community, is all those things provide opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
We talked about it in a previous live about your network being actually your net worth. And I think if you can build that in an academic scene as you all make that transition. I know I've spoken to an individual that I placed previously in a senior chemical development role now, is still so close with his postdoc group. They all still communicate really well. It's such a small world once you get into industry. So I think it's about keeping those connections from the start.
Yes,
But
100%.
loads of questions.
Just to add one more thing as well. One more thing that comes to mind as well, Rosie, is something that I've actually done in my companies and with A-level students that are still studying. It's, bring your daughter to work, bring your niece to work, bring a young person to work and let them shadow for 2 weeks. Okay, they don't get paid, but they get the experience of coming into industry and actually
exposure.
seeing what's happening and having some conversations. And I think that's a fun way as well
Yeah,
of stretching them academically, but also giving them that visibility of what it would be like to be in the workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, Claire, that's fantastic. And actually, one of the things when I was saying volunteering that I really still enjoy doing is I'm a visiting scholar at Barnett Institute at Northeastern. And even just teaching a few classes a year on a topic, the interaction you get with people who ask questions is so beneficial to your own way of thinking and growing. And I really appreciate those opportunities too, because you think, oh, I'm going to go teach somebody something, but really, if you're teaching well, you get learning yourself, right? And
Yeah.
those kinds of things where it's younger, inexperienced people who don't have a bias, they're asking you questions. It's really informative.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
Exactly.
enlightening for them, isn't it? It's hard.
And
It's hard to.
yeah, inspiring.
Yes, inspiring. Yeah, I think you were saying, Rosie, we've had so many
Yes.
comments and questions coming through. We've obviously got some fabulous ones to ask, but I'm very conscious that it'd be great to get some of these shared. Rosie, I don't know if there's anything there that stands out for
Yes,
you.
I think we'll start here. So, Andrew, thank you for your question. The question is, how do you shed the stigma of being an academic in a senior industry management? Did this happen over time through onboarding a specific skill or attitude? And Jen, I'll send it your way first because I know that you went through a journey of being an academic in that senior space as well.
Yeah, and Andrew, that's a really astute question because there is a stigma, and there is a real barrier. And so, you're wearing a particular hat or bias when you're an academic. You're looking deeply at science and through that lens all the time. And in order to serve your industry job properly, you have to shift that perspective and you have to shift your priorities. And if you can't do that, you're not going to succeed in the industry job, right? And so you have to realize there is a shift. You need lots of input. So in my case, I went through an elongated transition, I would say, because I had a startup company, and my contacts with people who I had become friends and sort of had somewhat mentoring relationships with through that process were really valuable for helping me to think through shifting. They didn't necessarily tell me what to do. It was a conversation about, right? And so what did I need to adjust in order to think appropriately about that? The biggest thing is a business framework, right?
Mhm.
It's a business. And when you're an academic, your mindset is not on money and efficiency of spend and those kinds of things. So you have to be able to take your science and put it into that. And it does take time to adjust and refine and optimize, right, the way in which you think about those things. So I had a progression with a startup company. Even then, getting my first job once I decided I wanted to exit academia, it took some time. I mean, it took a few years to find the right place to be. And some of that's personal and some of it's practical with regard to the credential set. But you have to then find ways in which to build the rest of those credentials to have yourself be a credible person who can do that job and do that job well. And to be perfectly honest, I think I still would struggle with that to some extent today, because what people do in a normal screening process is they have a checklist and they say, did you have this experience? Did you have a product cross the finish line? I'm not in an innovator company. I don't have a product. So I have to build an amalgamated story that shows my sophistication, my ability to do that, and to be able to convey the gaps between that in order to move into a new position. And I would say that even with the M&As, I had to build that story to progress within the company that I have been a part of, to be able to demonstrate my capability to do the job that's needed for a larger company. And that focus has shifted, where I'm always thinking about the science, and I love the science, but I'm always having to filter it and put it through the gating, right, of, is it good business? Does it actually accomplish what we need it to for our business? And get people on board, right, to do that. So I apologize, Claire, it was a long answer. I'm sure you have a lot to do. But this one's definitely something I feel strongly about. So.
And
I think it's good to hear that perspective, Jennifer, because maybe I can come from it from a different point of view, not having had that academic runway that you had. As a leader in industry, I believe that diversity of thought, diversity of experience, and diversity of background is so critical to stimulate creativity and innovation. And bringing academics in because they think differently and they bring that different view is so important. And recognizing that as a part of the senior management, you're part of a team. It's not all on you. And when you can combine everybody's capabilities, that's where you really start to push into something different and something new. And I have specifically brought consultants and academics on my team because of that fresh thinking, because of that different thinking. And as we work more and more with the regulatory agencies, and I'm speaking specifically for pharma, the FDA and IMA and the other regulatory agencies, there's such a push into new analytical capabilities or new technologies and into the depths of science to characterize your drug products to make sure that we're giving the patients the best medicines, that I do think there's a lot of value in recognizing the role of academics or people who have had that academic runway and bringing them on board and really giving them that role to learn, but also to challenge our sometimes unilateral perspective.
Yeah.
I think you represent a very forward-leaning perspective, Claire.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Yeah.
And with Andrew's question, I know it's kind of, in a way, there's a few things that stood out. It sounds like you've had great mentors and a great community to get advice from. It sounds like you've also gone in with an open perspective that you're going to have to learn and you're going to have to, you said something about changing your lens and looking at things in a different way, which is also really important from both sides. But there's another question that's come in, and I think it kind of flows nicely from this question around what leadership skills or technical skills have you had to develop, or do you plan to develop, but you didn't predict earlier in your career? So, Claire, I'll come to you first, but sitting where you are now and looking back in reflection at your journey, were there any particular, as you say, technical skills, leadership skills that you didn't predict you'd have to actually master or learn?
Yeah. So I think I came into industry as an analytical chemist. I did postgraduate studies in pharmaceutical analysis and quality control. And for me, a lot of the technical skill, maybe it is more the technical skills around understanding the science behind product development. So all aspects of it, whether it's formulation, whether it's regulatory, all aspects of what does it require to develop a drug from the point of it being just a powder in a vial or a biologic to actually being a product in the patient's hands. And I think that learning was something that I had to undertake. I think more significantly, there were key leadership skills that I needed to learn in terms of being able to deliver through others, because as you become a leader, it's no longer about you doing the science, it's about you leading the science and providing the technical oversight and the challenge. And really skills like leadership skills like collaboration, working as part of an organization, running an organization, business acumen, really understanding, Jennifer made the point about it's moving from science to business. At the end of the day, we have a product to deliver, we have patients to serve, and really learning that transition in leadership was really a key part of what I had to do. Learning how to challenge, not just myself, but challenge others as well to ensure that we were doing the best, and learning a level of agility, particularly now that I'm in the generic industry, and to be successful, you have to be able to come to the market first and very early, and learning how to bring all your systems and processes in such a way that you enable that. And I think the other part of it as well is using digital technology, bringing tools and that bring efficiencies into the lab space, brings efficiency into even the portfolio selection parameters. Artificial intelligence and digital are key areas that I've had to learn as well, because when I started and as I've gone through industry, that journey has really accelerated. And that is now very much a part of the toolkit that we need to be using to develop medicines.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your learning journey doesn't ever end,
Doesn't stop.
because
No,
I mean,
no.
we've
No,
got Pharma 4.0 coming in. There's lots
Yeah.
of AI, machine learning. It sounds like, to answer the question, that there's always going to be skills that we need to learn that we couldn't predict.
Yeah,
But Jennifer,
the minute you stop learning, you stop being effective.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And it also demonstrates that a lot of it is mindset. It's having that ability to be agile and the willingness to want to learn and to try new things and to step out of your comfort zone and not do the norm. So yeah, a lot of it is about the mindset and the agility piece. I love.
Claire, you
So
really
yeah,
hit a number of key pieces there, which I completely agree with. And I won't add to those because it was very well said. But what I will say is, just more on a personal level, is I think when you are in the scientific mode and you're thinking analytically, it's very fact oriented, and there's a softer element of actually leading people, which is a psychology piece of understanding the human nature of a person or different people. And there's a lot of motivators, a lot of drivers, or a lot of things that are specific to an individual person. And so I would say really listening and understanding the people on your team, which frankly can be a hard challenge because of time management alone. As much as I want to know every single person really well, time doesn't permit that in reality. So I'm doing my best to kind of mix between the two, understand my team's composition generally, and what they need and what motivates them, in terms of how do they receive that leadership. And there's no perfect way to do it. It's just hard. People are people, and they're diverse and complex. And so I think what I would say is I've always appreciated listening. It's how I've learned, but it's even more important than I understood as a young person. And being able to, at the end of all that listening, take it into account, but actually be the leader and make the decision. You have to come to a point of decision, and you have to stand behind it. And this is kind of another topic that's, I say, important to me, is as young women, we often want people to like us. And you have to shed that. You really do, because you have to be able to stand behind the decision and accept that not everybody's going to agree with you, and they may not like it. And there are things that will happen that you don't like as a result of that. But you have to own that decision. And that's part of being a good leader.
And Jen,
explain it. So
yeah, I love that piece that you just said, and it's kind of one of the questions we were thinking about. And there's a few, and the time is running out slowly, but I'm going to throw a few more questions in. And I really like that piece around you had to change your mindset of trying to get everyone to like you and stuff like that. So do you think I mean, you're obviously there does have to be, because from what you've just said, but what do you think is the change in mindset people need to take on when stepping into that CSO or C-suite position? How do you elevate yourself to that level?
yeah, the how is hard. No, I mean, to be honest, I think what I just said really is the answer to that question, which is you have to put yourself in an executive mindset. The best thing I can liken it to is a professional sports, analogy, which is you're single-minded, you have a sole objective, and everybody's clear on that objective. And if you can do that, you should be relatively successful, right, in that position. Balancing science and business is the key in a CSO, because you're driving the science for the sake of the business. I think I'll stop there. Claire's been nodding a lot, and I'd love to hear what she has to say on this too.
No, I agree with you, Jennifer. I think certainly that change in mindset and the balance between science and business. But I think another aspect is, as a CSO, you're responsible for the scientific strategy of the organization, and you have to be prepared to take risks, evaluate that risk, and learn how to fail fast and course correct, because every risk you take isn't going to give you the right result. But you can't not take the risk, and you can't become paralyzed waiting for data. So I think it's a balance of lots of skills. It's the listening to the subject matter experts under you, weighing up all the information to be able to take the decision. But then ultimately, when you take the decision, owning the decision and owning the risk. I think that's a key part of it as well. And it goes back again to not expecting everybody to like you, because sometimes the decisions you have are not going to be popular decisions, but they may be the right decisions for the business ultimately.
I couldn't agree more. I so appreciate that you added that perspective. A good friend / mentor of mine once told me, indecision is a decision and it never ends well. And 100% right. You have to what you said, which is make a decision, stand behind it, and move forward, and then
Yes.
adapt to what
And if you're going to fail fast,
Yeah.
and autocorrect fast.
Yeah,
It's okay to fail.
Yeah.
There we go.
Words just there. They're very much inspiring the audience.
I
So
know. I've obviously
it's
said that
lovely.
too many times.
I have
You're
one
going to
more
fail
thought I'd like
fast.
to share on that, if okay. I think one other thing is you have to accept that some things you have to let go as well. So you can't win every fight, and you have to learn to judge what fights are worth winning and fighting for. And that's an important part of being part of a team at that level.
Yeah, my mum always said to me, you've got to pick your battles in life because you're not going to have enough armies to face them all. So I totally agree. In the last 5 minutes, one question I definitely want to throw out there that we ask everyone is about the pivotal moment in your career. But I want to pull it up on the screen, but I'm just trying to find it. Apologies. I guess we can throw in this one. Here we go. Okay, looking back on the successful careers that you've both had and such different journeys that you've taken, what is one piece of advice that you'd give your younger self, whether it be moving from academia and the university setup that you're in, Jen, or coming over to England for you, Claire? What was that one piece of advice you'd give yourself now with all that you've learnt? We'll come to you first, Claire.
Yeah, I think going back to the pivotal moment in my life was the point at which I wanted to leave the bench and move into leadership, still scientific leadership. And in my first interview, I got the feedback that they didn't think that I had the leadership capability to leave the bench, that I would always be a bench scientist, and I shouldn't aspire for more than I am capable of doing. That was the feedback that I got, and I think I had to sit and look at that and think, okay, how do you reconcile yourself with feedback like that? And I think my advice to myself was, nobody puts limits on me. I'm the one who defines my boundaries, my borders, my capability, and I, making sure that I saw that no was not a never, it was a not yet. And what did I need to do in the waiting period? What did I need to do in terms of learning, improving, strengthening, building my own capability, leadership and technical, to move into where my aspirations and my passion to really have an impact in industry was able to take me to. And I would say that don't be limited by those who speak over you. You have to be the one that defines where you want to go, and be brave. And again, take that risk and step out. So
I love that.
That would be the advice that I would give give my young self.
I think you shared that story when we first spoke, Claire, and it makes me smile because, I mean, look at where you've come now. If they hadn't said that, you may not have pushed to be as successful and as senior as you are now. So I think it's definitely a lesson learnt well. Jen, I'll throw the question your way. Pivotal moment / piece of advice you'd give your younger self.
Yeah, good advice, Claire. I agree. I would take that advice. I would say on the advice piece, I would have just summarized it as, you have to be resilient because there's going to be a lot of no's in your way. And so it's the not yet comment that you made that really resonates with me. You have to think about yourself analytically, which is hard to do. What are your deficiencies? But not generally speaking, not getting down on yourself, thinking about them analytically with respect to where do you want to go and why do you want to be there? And then that can help hone what do you do next. So just like when I said volunteering, you don't just generally volunteer, you strategically volunteer to do something that's going to help you gain a skill, that's going to help you gain a network, right? So being an analytical critic of yourself that helps you to grow, and then that motivates you to get input from the outside. The other thing, and I shared this, and I know Claire liked my comments, so I'm going to share it again, which is What I've always liked was a quote by Wayne Gretzky, who, for those of you outside the US, may not know, very, very famous hockey player. And someone asked him how he was so successful. And he had a very simple answer, which is, I never skate to where the puck is. I always skate to where the puck is going. It's a team sport. You have to know your team, you have to know the game, and you have to know where to go and anticipate what's coming. And I would say if you can develop that mentality and approach, that you'll not only be successful, but you'll actually enjoy what you're doing. And so I try to emulate Wayne Gretzky in my approach.
I love that. That
Yeah.
is so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, Louise, I think we've lost your sound. You're on. I think you're on mute there. Let's.
Sorry, it might have been because I was coughing earlier. I do apologise. My voice is holding in, and Rosie's doing a fab job. But yeah, we've had Cynthia saying excellent points by both of you. It's hard move to lead the strategy and known pivoting quickly when needed. I just think we had a lot of people that really resonated with what both of you had said then, including Evie here. I'm not going to read that out because my voice is almost going.
Yeah,
Rosie might be able to do that. And then
for
Monica
sure.
as well, just saying there.
Yeah, such an important perspective, Claire. It's tough to remember when you face such tough feedback. But I mean, looking at the time,
I
it's
know.
been an absolute pleasure. I want to thank everybody for joining, engaging. We had some amazing questions come through that we couldn't even get to, and hopefully we'll find them after this and be able to come back to you directly.
It's
But
very true.
it's been super engaging, and Claire, Jen, thank you so much. I know you've taken time out of your very busy schedules to be with us today, and I think not only has it been insightful, but it's just been a really interesting conversation. And as Louise has just pulled up, please, everyone joining us today, go and follow and join our Lift Up community page. There is exclusive content that is shared there, interviews, blogs, pieces made by our Lift Up change makers like Claire and Jen, who can really offer their support. But also, it's for you to genuinely build your network and as you say, build your net worth further down the line. I don't know if there's
Absolutely.
anything you want to add, Louise.
To be honest, my voice is only just holding in, but I just want to say thank you so much to everybody that has engaged in the comments. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Andrew, for your question earlier. It was fabulous. We've had so many people dial in around the world for this, so it's brilliant. We clearly do have some really great questions actually that have not been answered just due to time. So what we might be able to do is maybe work with Jennifer and Claire at getting some of those answered. I know Lynn Sullivan wanted to understand she's almost at the peak in her career at SVP level and is now looking to explore board level roles. So really interested to know how to go about that. So we might try and take some of these questions and segment them out as a group with Claire and Jennifer and get those answered and shared into the Lift Up community page. So for now, thank you so much, both Claire, Jennifer, for joining us. Thank you, Rosey, for holding fort, and for all the audience that's got engaged with us today. It's been fabulous, and enjoy the rest of your afternoons, mornings, wherever it is you're dialing
Evenings.
in from. Take care. Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.